Welcome to Celebrate a Sister podcast. I'm your host, Emma Walkinshaw. I'm a transformational coach. I'm also the founder of Embody Me program and the creator of 21 Minutes of Morning Magic. You may also find me on the yoga mat leading yoga sessions and also running retreats here in Australia and internationally. Here on the podcast, I bring you some pretty incredible guests. We talk all things self-belief, body acceptance, personal development, outdated beauty standards, and we also call BS on the toxic diet culture, accepting the beautiful bodies we were born into, letting go of all the beliefs, and raising our self-awareness. I also come to you from time to time with a little solo episode, a little Life According to Emma moment. I'm so glad you're here. Enjoy. Are you ready to break free from the chains of diet culture and step into a life filled with confidence? I am so excited to introduce to you Body Love Bootcamp. This course designed to help you reject toxic beauty standards and embrace the powerful, confident woman that you are. Join the wait list now to be the first to transform your relationship with your body. It's time to move from self-loathing to self-love. Sign up today. There is a link in the show notes and you'll be the first to hear once Body Love Bootcamp is out into the world, and it's coming very soon. Hello and welcome to this week's episode of Celebrate a Sister. I am your host, Emma Walkinshaw. Thank you for joining me. If you're new to the podcast, thanks so much for being here. It is always great to have the message that I am really passionate about shared with more women, as I feel like we are a movement. We are starting to uncover some of the diet culture and beauty standards and perhaps stories that we've been fed and told from society and perhaps our well-meaning family. So it's great just to open this conversation up, and I love adding to the conversation. I'm very passionate about this topic. Like a lot of women, my story has been one of a struggle with my own body story for so many years that, I feel like I got to a place where enough's enough. And the beautiful power of yoga for me has been massive on my healing journey and accepting the beautiful body that I inhabit this world in. But I did want to also let you know, here I am right now in a hotel room in Goza, it is called. It's an island just off of Malta. So I'm traveling at the moment with my mum and my two grown-up children. So we've been to Scotland, which is a pretty magical place. If you have not been to Scotland, highly recommend. And just the scenery is like no other. I've never seen anything like it before. It's my second time to Scotland, and I like to say I'm not going to return to the same country, but there's still so many parts of Scotland that I want to see. It's pretty pristine. And right now, the island of Gozo, what has brought me here is I have a brother and his wife, and 5 of their 7 children are living here on Gozo. So they've been here 11 months, so we come to visit them. So that has been an incredible little journey. And then from here, I go on to Italy. So I'm feeling incredibly blessed right now. But let me introduce this week's topic. So this has been inspired by a conversation I had with my brother, and then a post from a friend today on Instagram that really inspired this topic. So in the vein of body acceptance, body confidence, beauty standards, and diet culture, I want to ask you the question, what is it costing you? I asked myself this question. what is it costing you, Emma? When you adhere to or be pulled into the societal norms or the stories and the lies that I've been told and sold, what's it costing me? And I thought I could really equate it. And a dear friend, Meg, in her post today did equate one part of this for me, and that was the monetary and the time aspect. So listening to beauty standards, following diets, there is a cost to our pocket and there is a cost to our time. And yes, money and time is absolutely of value and finite in a lot of ways. Not so much the money. We can always make more money, but our time is finite. We cannot get it back. But for me, it was really about the emotional roller coaster angst that I've been through. And I'm wondering, are you resonating? Do you feel this too? So I'm certainly not here to preach and tell you don't color your hair and buy the skincare cream and do all those lovely things, that you have your nails done, have your eyelashes done. That's not what this is about. But I do want to open the conversation up to exactly what and where we're spending our money and our time. And then what is the emotional cost of that? So based on research, I went down a little, because Meg, and I'm going to share with you Meg's findings and her equation of what the cost has been for her. But based on the average woman, on a little bit of research I've been doing, there has been some studies done. So the average woman spends around $3,756 per year on her appearance, and that's including beauty products, beauty services, and dieting. And I was thinking myself about that, about the 3,756, and I think it would be very fair for me to say that I have probably exceeded that without a doubt on numerous occasions. And over a lifetime, though, we roughly live to 78 years of age, statistics tell us. So if we were to add up that amount, it's around 225,000 over our lifespan. They also done some research on the time part of that. So that's the money part. And it really is hard to equate that, because I have bought exercise equipment that has been incredibly expensive. I've had personal trainers, I've had naturopaths, I've had dietitians, I have had dieting programs, I have had products, I have had, you name it. I've bought, big packets of shakes and this and that have just sat in the cupboard. I remember one time I bought these ridiculous pills online that were it makes me laugh now, just the madness. I think it cost me about $500 for these pills that you took that were meant to help you burn fat. And obviously what they had in them was caffeine. So I took them. I am not an anxious person. I was having heart palpitations. I had this anxiousness. I could literally feel my body jittering, like I'd had like 10 cups of coffee. My body was like vibrating and jittering. But the biggest thing was I was parched. I was so thirsty. Every time I talked, I had this, you know how you've got a really dry mouth. I kept going, I'm so parched. I'm parched. It was because these ridiculous tablets. So I stopped taking them, and, I think I'd lasted maybe 5 days of this running anxiety brought on by these tablets and being constantly parched. It was absurd and jittery as anything. And then they laid in the cupboard, and then I threw them out. But this is the madness that I have experienced. And I'm sure if you're listening to this podcast, I'm sure you've got a story or two you could tell me as well, because this is what we do. We get, I'm not going to say we, I'm going to say I have gotten to the point where I've been so desperate to be a certain size or show up in a certain way that I've gone to extremes. So equating this to $1, I'm sure that at times I've gone over that, which, I think now, I'm here, I am in Europe, and I think, gosh,
I really would like that to have generated and channeled that money into another destination, another country to extend my holiday, as opposed to, chasing rainbows and being, promised things that are just absurd. And now having my eyes open when I see these ads now, like those pills that are going to help you burn fat, but really just have you jittery because they've got a heap of caffeine in them, make you thirsty. I just laugh at them now and go, oh, give me a break. However, for years that worked on me. So they talked also about a study in this research that I found. They also talked about the study that they'd done on the average woman. She spent 5 months dieting a year. So it was basically suggested that dieting had occupied a portion, 5 months, almost half of the year. That portion of the year was spent on a diet. They also talked about, in this whole study, about the amount of energy it takes. So they say that a woman who runs a house and has children and has a husband, she already spends around 20 hours a week coming up with what she's cooking, shopping, going and getting the actual ingredients, cooking the meal, the food preparation and the meal. So a woman spends around 20 hours a week doing that. That is staggering. That is unbelievable. Then on top of that, you add onto this woman, she then is on a new eating regime that is sometimes she does on the side to her family's meal preparation. So often she will do that on the side. And it consumes an extra 10 hours of her week. So there's 30 hours in a week, a woman, when she is on a program or a diet, as well as taking care of a family and preparing for a family. And even I was getting curious about that and thinking about yourself. If you were to equate, if you were even just do a little time stamp of your week, I'm talking to the woman who is, preparing food for the family. Think of school lunches, breakfasts that you're preparing, the shopping of the evening meal, because often the woman is the one that is doing all of the meal prep, and she's usually feeding children and making those decisions. And then if she's doing an eating regime herself, let's put another 10 hours onto that. Staggering. So again, just opening our minds up to what is this costing us? It is time. It is money. And it is also the emotional load that we are carrying. Also, Meg, I've talked about perhaps the food preparation part of things, but Meg Durham, who's a dear friend, her post today was a beautiful post talking about her decision in February 2020 to stop colouring her hair. Meg has done the math and she's looked at the time. So she has done the math and she has saved $15,000, as well as she's got back 10 days. So the hours that she was sitting in the chair at the salon, she's got back 10 days. Meg also finished the post with a powerful statement that I love that. She finished her post by saying, just because everyone else is doing it doesn't mean you have to. I love that. And I feel like this is where I have been caught over the years. Everybody else is doing it. Everyone's on a diet. Everyone's doing the latest X, Y, or Z. And I felt I've never questioned it. It's not like I would identify that I'm a sheep and I follow, but I just never questioned it. So I guess that's the message here. What's it costing you? And are you questioning it? So then talking about the emotional cost of this. So for me, I feel like money shmoney, but I do feel the impact of the emotional load for me and for women. And the women that I've worked with, also when I own the yoga studio, the emotional heavy hearts of some of the women that would step into the yoga studio and share with me about their body concerns, and purely from an aesthetics. So negative emotions, women often experience depression, anxiety, and stress and sadness when they're trying to lose weight. About 35% of women report negative emotions related to dieting attempts. There is a cycle that we go on. We start the diet. We're really, really excited. It's really quite challenging the first few days, usually because the restriction is so intense that we are having withdrawals. We're really flat. Our energy is low. Then if we can last through it, we are really undernourished, we are starving, and then all we can think about is food and the next meal, what you can and can't eat. So there is no part of us that thinks about what do I need, it's what can I have. So the mental burden women spend, and I mentioned this before, talking about weight loss, 19%, I'll say that again. The mental burden women spend are considered about the amount of time thinking about weight loss. So just the thinking about weight loss, we spend around 3 to 8 hours a week, equivalent to a full day of work just thinking about dieting and what we can and can't do, what we should and shouldn't be doing. That's full on. And I know I've had times in my life where I've actually had to have a firm talk to myself and say, Emma, you are boring me to death. Enough. And I feel like that's where I'm at now. I no longer want to obsess about that, but it's so ingrained in me that I am loving this body confidence coaching because it's such a sweet reminder, just like the wise words of our dear friend Meg, who said, just because everyone else is doing it doesn't mean you have to. So the other strain on dieting creates mental strain, showing higher levels of stress hormone. Now that is interesting. So as we know, when our nervous system is regulated and our cortisol levels are low, we are able to come back to a much more balanced equilibrium in our life. So the sheer fact that we go on a diet and we're stressing about it, our cortisol levels raise because we're stressed, because we're not sticking to it. We are obsessing about the food. So our hormones naturally raise. So it's this counterintuitive thing that happens. The obsession and the being preoccupied, women become obsessed with their weight during diets, making a focal point on their lives to be determined of their relationships and others' activities. So that's even really, really interesting, isn't it? We're stopping doing things in our life. Women also feel really vulnerable. Losing weight can make some women feel really exposed. And then they feel like they have to be explaining. If someone mentions, it's one of those interesting things. You want to go on a diet and you want to lose weight, but then people mention it and want to talk about your body. It becomes this constant focus. And then there is this fear, but what if I put the weight back on? And that is something that when I speak to a lot of women about, most of them will express to me that they have lost the weight, but then the whole time they've lost the weight, they're so frightened about putting it back on again. There's also so much guilt and shame around failed diet attempts can lead to feelings of guilt, and that's really crappy for our self-esteem. That's where we really, really get, really, really take a hit. The body dissatisfaction is it's just such a negative way to be evaluating ourselves. We're often evaluating ourselves to these beauty standards and to these unrealistic expectations or rules that we've put on ourselves. We're just always dissatisfied. Our body is the enemy. And actually in the Body Love Bootcamp I've created a whole module about when we have set ourselves up, our body is constantly the enemy, that we have just made it wrong and it's never good enough. So the Body Love Bootcamp is just about to come out if you are interested, and it's the mindset. In the Body Love Bootcamp, I'm not here to say don't look after yourself. It's not about telling you to let yourself go. It's actually the opposite. It's saying that I want us all to be well. I want us all to find our equilibrium. But just like the example before, I don't want it at the cost of the stress that a diet puts on us. I want our hormones to be in balance. I want us to feel ease and flow as opposed to restriction and not good enough. So that's the energy and the essence of Body Love Bootcamp. It's all about the mindset. So there is a long-term impact that happens and the cost is high. So the cost, what is it costing us? It's costing us the emotional toll that dieting can sometimes set in for years. It's a cycle of shame, body dissatisfaction, and unhappiness. So I'd love for you all to just sit for a moment with pen and paper and perhaps do a little bit of pen to paper and say to yourself, what has dieting cost me? What has beauty standards cost me? And maybe it's not the dollar value. Maybe it is the emotional load that it has had on your heart and your soul, that feeling of just not being good enough because you failed again, or just not being good enough because you can't stick with it, whatever that story is. But the question is, what does it cost you? What does it cost you, my friend? I know what it's cost me, and I am so happy to have my head above the water now and be seeing clearly, as opposed to amongst the reeds underneath the water, not being able to see where I'm going and holding my breath and hoping and praying for the best. So thank you for listening this week. I hope this has been of value to you. And if you are keen on joining the Body Love Bootcamp, there is a wait list. And for all of the beautiful women who join the wait list, there's going to be some fabulous bonuses. So please go ahead and join the wait list. Have a wonderful day, dear friend. Any feedback, shoot me an email. Always love to hear your comments and love for you also to add to the conversation.